So today we're going to dive into cheating because I have been binge watching the show Mad Men. And if you're not familiar with this show, I think it came out on the movie channel or AMC or one of those stations. You can now watch it on HBO. And it's about the 1960s advertising industry in New York. So I highly recommend checking it out. But I've been addicted to this show because of the rampant infidelity in the workplace. And I thought I'd talk about how to spot cheaters and make sure this doesn't happen to you. I first want to read the blog to you, though, that I wrote for everyone on social media, and it's on my Facebook page. And if you want it, it's already got like 500,000 views. So let me read this to you and we'll go from there. One big reason why people cheat, and no one likes to talk about it. Now, let me just say this is from the point of view of man cheating, okay? But this is true for women as well. For the past few days, I've been watching Mad Men, and it hit me really hard, mainly due to my profession, because it's a petri dish of human behavior. Look, it's not because of the smoking or the sexism or the boozing, but because of cheating. That's what I find fascinating. The casualness of it, the entitlement of it. And then I realized something uncomfortable. This isn't a then problem. It's a human problem that wears different clothes today. Okay? It's not that different from then to now. Don Draper is the poster child for the wounded man. Brilliant, charismatic, sexy as hell, emotionally unavailable as fuck. And while the show is set in the 60s, Don exists everywhere in modern dating. He just doesn't need a secret apartment anymore. He has Instagram, dating apps, work trips, and emotional ambiguity. Someone write that down, emotional ambiguity. Men like Don don't cheat because they're evil. They cheat because they're fractured. He grew up unwanted, ashamed, unseen, and then built a mask so confusing the world applauded. But here's the kicker. No amount of admiration heals wounding that deep. So he seeks relief through validation and novelty. A woman who makes him feel powerful for 10 minutes so he doesn't have to sit in his hollow ache inside his chest. And women, this is the part that stings the most. Women are drawn to men like Don Draper because wounded men often come packaged as deep. They feel intense, magic, mysterious, or magnetic, I should say. There's this sense that if you just love them enough, they will finally exhale and finally choose you and finally stop running from their wounds. That fantasy is intoxicating. It makes a woman feel special, chosen, different from all the rest. But here's the brutal truth. You cannot love a man into integrity. Let me repeat that. You cannot love a man into integrity. A wounded man who hasn't done the inner work doesn't suddenly become loyal because you're amazing. He becomes sneakier, more conflicted, more avoidant. Cheating isn't about the woman. It's about his inability to stay present when intimacy gets real. So how do you avoid the cheating man or woman? You start listening to their words and start watching the relationship with consistency. God, I got an itchy nose. With accountability, with discomfort. Does he take responsibility or blame others for his past? Does he slow down and build emotional safety, or does he rush into intensity? Does he talk about growth or just the trauma? Does his life show stability or chaos with a good story? Pay attention to his backstory. Chemistry without character is a fucking trap. And he telegraphs his character when he talks about his past. God, I got an itchy nose. The healed man isn't as flashy. He doesn't knock your socks off on the first date or 3. But he shows up. He stays. He doesn't need novelty to regulate his emotions. He doesn't run when you get close. He shares his past, taking ownership for his mistakes. And that's the real upgrade. Not avoiding the cheater, but choosing the men who are done running from themselves. So that's my post I did on Facebook. Don Draper is an interesting character. I am fascinated with this show. I'm fascinated with his backstory. And this is not giving him an excuse. Yes, he had a wounded childhood. Yes, he had trauma as an adult. That's not an excuse for his behavior. That's just an explanation of why he is where he is. And he is a microcosm of so many people who are in a state of infidelity today, whether they're men or women. Each gender has their own reasons, or each individual has their own reasons. But my job here is to help you spot it. So if you're a woman or man in a relationship, and again, this video is going to be directed mostly to women about how to spot men. I'm going to give you 5 ways to spot a cheater. And please don't let this happen to you. Okay? Because I don't want you to end up. Oh, and by the way, Don Draper's character is fascinating because he's cheating with everybody in his workplace for the most part. That's what fascinates me so much. And what fascinated me was the women knew about the infidelity. But that's another story. And now infidelity is hidden through Instagram, social media, like we said, business trips and that sort of thing. So how do you spot somebody who could be unfaithful? First, inconsistency disguised as busy. By the way, I have notes, so let me read from there. Inconsistency disguised as busy. Early dating effort is easy. If communication availability or follow through already fluctuates, that's not chemistry, it's capacity. Cheaters live double lives. The double lives require vague schedules and flexible truths. Let me repeat that. Vague schedules and flexible truths. You know, this is the challenging part with today's dating because we oftentimes don't date in an area of proximity. In other words, when people are connected who live 15 miles away, 150 miles away, or 1,500 miles away or more. It's difficult to build that consistency through social activities, hobbies, mutual interests, spending time with family and friends, traveling together, teamwork building skills, both in your personal and your professional life, intimacy, both physical and emotional intimacy. Without regular contact, if you think back 50 years ago, forgetting the show Mad Men that I'm talking about, nobody dated that far outside of their geographic area. In fact, usually within several miles. So it was natural to spend 2, 3, 4, or 5 days and nights a week together, doing those shared activities and such. By the way, dating is a vetting process to get to know someone. And the best way to get to know someone is through a variety of different experiences. And if they're inconsistent early on, but here's the trap many of you fall into. You find yourself in a circumstance where you only see someone once a week because you've got a busy schedule. They have a busy schedule. Maybe you're raising children. Maybe they're raising children. Maybe they travel, that sort of thing. That's not consistent enough. So they can hide their infidelity in all of that busyness. Oh, and by the way, for those long distance daters, I'm going to tell you something. It is not uncommon that a significant percentage of men and women who are in long distance dynamics, who might not see the person that they're dating or in a relationship for weeks or months at a time, are usually have 1 or 2 people on the side when that's going on. That's a very common tale. Not always, but common enough to where I should point this out. Consistency designed as busy. That's the first sign. The second sign, intimacy without transparency. He can talk about his feelings, trauma, and sex, but it gets slippery around logistics. You know his childhood wounds, but not his weekend plans. Emotional depth without physical or practical clarity is a red flag, not a green light. Okay, now let's dive into this. It's fascinating to me how many people bond today through their traumas. Now, let me give you an example of a common trauma today. The garden variety trauma is divorce, okay, or a breakup. Do you realize that a divorce is the unraveling of your tapestry of your life with another human being? And today, men and women are bonding through these mutual traumas. not in the traditional sense of trauma bonding. I'm talking about needing an emotional support person. In fact, dating today is kind of replacing going to a therapist, and it's a lot cheaper because you have willing candidates that are empathetic, kind, and caring. I've witnessed too many women become an emotional support person for somebody who is going through these types of traumas in their lives. And so when a man shares his traumatic feelings, you ladies oftentimes go, oh, it's like angels singing. And talking about how much he'd like to have sex with you isn't talking about feelings. That's lust. Lust. And so I think it's really important to recognize that intimacy without transparency, without genuine sharing about the particulars, about someone's past, about someone, where's someone at today, and where do they want to go in their love life, that's certainly a sign that they could be hiding someone, or they might just be hiding their capacity to actually dive into a deeper relationship. Number 3, fast bonding paired with slow accountability. I don't love this one, but it is top on my list. Fast bonding paired with slow accountability. Love bombing, intense chemistry, and big words show up early. Yet responsibility doesn't. He avoids defining the relationship. He avoids exclusivity conversations or frames commitment as pressure. That's someone chasing connection without containment. Oh, write that down. That's someone chasing connection without containment. Containment is the container that you want to build in relationship. And while this in and of itself is not guaranteed a sign of infidelity, it's certainly a sign that someone might not be capable of a serious relationship. What this is really about, how to spot a cheater. It's really about how to spot someone who is probably unable to build a relationship with you. The sad part is so many of you bond with these would-be, available people, would be available. Just because someone talks about their problems, their insecurities, particularly about their past lover or relationship. It's so easy to blame the other person without taking any accountability. And many of you just suck it up. Like I said before, oh, you're just singing to me because you're just talking to me about all your problems. I'm going to talk to you about all my problems, and we're just going to share our problems with one another. And I know that seems patronizing for a moment, but I've watched too many people fall into this trap of fast bonding and slow accountability. The minute they have sex with you, let's take this slow, let's see where this goes, they stop being emotionally available and they slow that down. But they didn't slow down the penis and the vagina. No, they didn't. Number 4, boundary pushback early. Boundary pushback early. You express a need, a pace, a standard, and he subtly or she suddenly minimizes it. I've had this happen to me. I'm going to tell you something. I've had this circumstance happen to me, so I know where I speak of, where a boundary pushback, when I expressed a need, a standard. But certainly when someone does that, they minimize it, jokes it away, labels you as insecure or needy. Has anyone ever labeled you insecure or needy? I know I've been labeled that. And you know what? They were so good at it that I realized that they were on some level gaslighting me. A man or woman plans, a man who plans to cheat needs you doubting yourself. A woman who plans to cheat needs you doubting yourself, not trusting your own instincts. Your instincts are speaking to you all the time. And yet we seem to shut that out. We take red flags and paint them green. And lastly, number 5, his past relationships are always crazy, cold, and complicated. And by the way, I've heard women do the same thing, but men will always claim that the woman was crazy. She was cold. She was complicated. She didn't give him sex. She didn't give him intimacy. She was an alcoholic. She was the narcissist. Whenever somebody points the finger at someone else, there's always 3 fingers pointing back. No self-reflection, no ownership, just stories where they were misunderstood. The person they were with was completely unreasonable. That narrative is a setup. They are always the victim, and odds are someone is going to pay the price. This is how you can tell that someone is most likely setting you up for infidelity or a breakup. People that don't take ownership. And I know many of you are sitting here, well, Jonathan, I was with a narcissist. I was a cheater. I was with a cheater. There's nothing I need to own. Everybody has 3% at a minimum. And if you're not taking responsibility, at least minimum 3%, and make the relationship ending based on what your ownership, not based on what the other person does. When someone vomits how much it's someone else's fault, it's usually a sign that they're unfaithful. They will be unfaithful, or they're uncommittal going forward. Bottom line, cheaters don't reveal themselves all through one big betrayal. They reveal themselves through patterns that you are tempted to ignore. Let me repeat that. Cheaters oftentimes reveal themselves through patterns that most people typically ignore. And my hope is that through this conversation, you'll go, you know what? I'm not going to give my heart to someone so quickly. By the way, a friend of mine, Laurel House, says the head, the heart, the hormones, okay? For the first 90 days or so, do your best to operate from your head, the logical part of yourself. Not get caught up in the heart, not get caught up in the physical component of it. This is why I believe it's best to build a deep friendship with someone before you're physically intimate. Ask yourself, do I genuinely like this person? Can I trust this person? And you've seen them in a variety of different circumstances, and some of it can be done over the phone, and some of it can be done in person. It's not impossible to get to know someone through the phone. But I'm going to invite you to intertwine it with circumstances to see who they really are over a period of time before you give your heart to someone who most likely could be setting you up for some infidelity or just simply not wanting to go the distance. Is this sinking in? Is this resonating with you? Please let me know. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Post a comment below. I do my best to read them all in the first 24 hours. As always, if you find value in my videos, please hit that like button. Please share this video. Please subscribe to my channel and hit that notification bell so you can be notified of new videos. And if you want to connect with me, there's links below. Schedule a discovery call with me to see if working with a coach is right for you. Join my group called Midlife Love Mastery. Follow me on social media the links below. And get my dating vows that will help you navigate a committed relationship faster.